In today's episode of the Pathfinder Presents podcast, I got a very interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Nick Merry, and he's hailing over from the folks over at BoomBoard. And today we want to really deep dive into what BoomBoard is all about, how Nick is thinking about growth, and also the transition from outbound to inbound sources. Like a lot of marketers, obviously, are working that constantly. And basically just telling us a little bit about what's going on at BoomBoard. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Very good. Yeah. So maybe give us a quick insight. What is BoomBoard all about for the people who haven't heard about it?
Okay. So I guess in a nutshell, BoomBoard provides our audience with a quick and easy access to the most important business metrics that a business may have. It puts them all into one place, so there's no need to go hunting around different sources of data. It connects all of these sources into a sort of easily accessible dashboard. I guess the key benefits are that by having all your data in one place, your key metrics in one place, businesses can spot any opportunity there is to make revenue on the hoof, on the go, quickly. You can capitalize upon opportunities as they happen and jump on issues as they happen. So by having everything in one place and one easily digestible format, you never miss a beat in your business.
Very, very good. Now, what would you say, what would be a typical company, a typical customer that will be benefiting, most from BoomBoard? How would you describe the organizations? What character?
So we're focused on the SME market, the small to medium-sized business market. So typically businesses that are heavily reliant upon SaaS tools as themselves. And they are probably businesses that are growing or starting to grow at a bit of a rapid rate. So the business leaders, the founders, the CEOs, the director levels type people are starting to spin more and more plates, and those plates are probably wobbling a little bit. Stress is building. There's growing pains that any business starts to experience as they start to ramp up. And what we're there to do is to support them on that journey and make decision making quick, simple, easily accessible, and try to relieve some of that stress that comes along with, as I said, with those growing pains.
Gotcha. Very cool. And who would you say within those organizations, who would be the champion that would be holding the flag high? Is that, from which side does the push come internally?
Yeah, well, I think fundamentally that the core user is the sort of the C-suite, the director level people within these small organizations. However, there are different professions that are well versed in using data and have been for some time. So, marketing, for example, they've been using metrics for a long time. And then there are other departments, other sort of professions within an organization that less so. But what we find is that for founders, MDs, CEOs, managing directors, CEOs, as the business starts to grow, they get further and further away from, what we call the coalface. And as they get further away from it, they don't necessarily have access that they once had to the day-to-day systems. And so by enabling these business leaders to have direct access to all their pertinent information, their most valuable information at the push of a button, it helps them make rapid decisions, and it helps them manage and govern their business as it needs to be done. And as I said before, it relieves that stress of scaling a business, which from experience is stressful.
Very good. Now, what would you say? What role or what channels are you guys exploring, right? You mentioned the stage of the company, what would you say, what channels are you currently exploring versus where do you, see things going down the line?
Yeah, so we are a SaaS business ourselves. So we are, our routes to market are your classic SaaS tools for businesses. So LinkedIn is a classic tool that we use. for multiple reasons, not just proactive acquisition, but also credibility, building the perception that we know what we're talking about, so we do a lot of work within sort of LinkedIn. We do Google Ads, if like any other SaaS platform. Google is an important aspect, but we also start to lean towards like partnerships and other areas where we can have a more direct conversation with our audiences. So as an example, we are partnered with a few incubators, like startup incubators, and therefore we can use them almost as guinea pigs to try and test and learn about what aspects of our product is of most use, and therefore we can iterate and build upon the areas that are going to have most value to our customers.
Very cool. Now, how do you think about the website? Like, what role would you say does the website play then in their journey? Is there anything that you would, think the role it takes for the future? What's your take on that?
So, I mean, the website is absolutely pivotal for us as a SaaS business. Our product is a web app, essentially. So it starts with a website. That is the landing page. That is where people come on board and not discover us, but that's where they start to move through that chain of events that gets them to become a customer of ours. So we have obviously our activities on Google Ads, drives them to the website. We have our activities within social media, drives them to the website. The website is that starting platform. And as our business becomes more established, as any SaaS business becomes more established, you're looking at those conversion rates from A to B to C to D, all the way from landing on the website through to retaining your customers forever and a day. And so we scrutinize those conversion rates all the time. And we are looking for ways to obviously improve those conversion rates. And it all starts with the website. So it's fundamental.
I mean, you mentioned improving conversion rates. Is there something maybe over the years, doesn't have to be, in the current role, maybe, over the years that you've picked up when it comes to increasing or improving conversions? Anything that you've picked up that, feel was helping, any methodology, maybe technologies, approaches? Like what's something that you've seen over the years that was helpful?
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of tools out there that can assist us with improving our own product, but fundamentally it's about understanding and being in touch with your customers as much as you possibly can. And tools like I don't know if you heard of Full Story, where they say fantastic. It really shows you, and it's a classic thing. You can watch all these videos from Full Story, and then you can see where almost there's panic in the customer's eyes. You can imagine the panic in their eyes, and they're not quite sure what to do at that point. And we know that, okay, so we thought it was logical, but clearly it's not, because so many of our customers are stumbling at that point. So we need to readdress that particular point in our onboarding process, perhaps, or whatever it might be. So there are numerous tools out there that you can do, but fundamentally, it's the tools that give you direct access to your customers and their views and opinions, which are the most valuable to us.
Is there any, you mentioned Full Story, any other tools in that regard, maybe for marketers who are listening in, who could explore some that you found helpful over the years?
I mean, you probably, some of the more obvious ones, sort of Tag Manager within Google Analytics, and we can then see how we can optimize our conversion rates based upon specific events that they have within our onboarding process. As an example, if everybody knows how Google works. They go out there, they hunt for the right audience for you that converts for the metric that you define within Google Ads. But doing it through Tag Manager allows you to sort of move that conversion metric that is governed on further downstream. You don't want to go too far, it's too far away and they can't learn from it. But that's a very useful tool, because it might not just be the sign up, because signing up is great. You get lots of people to sign up, but if fundamentally they're not interested in your product, then they're not going to follow through and on board and then ultimately pay for it.
Very cool. Maybe one last question on that section, because I would say we have a lot of marketers listening and who are on that cusp from, basically having an outbound driven organization that they work with, and that is, building up their inbound muscle. What's something, maybe the growing pains or the actions that help the most in that phase, because there's a lot of marketers that are listening and that are writing us, actually even people on the show that are in that phase, right? Specifically if it's younger companies. What have you found to be what's like sort of the key pains or the key opportunities, and maybe some tips and tricks that you would have for people in that stage?
Yeah, I mean, for a SaaS business, the top of funnel stuff is super, super important. So if you're getting the wrong people in at the very top, then that's going to flow through down all the way through your process, and your cost per acquisition is going to be disproportionately high than it needs to be, because you're getting the wrong people in at the very beginning. And so it's that classic proving that product market fit is identifying the key, not necessarily the key user of the product, but the key the budget holder, the people who actually authorize it. Because you want to influence them to prove that this product is worth having. But if you get that wrong, your conversion rates are going to be slimmer, and therefore your cost per acquisition when it comes to actually paying or subscribing to a product is going to be that much higher. But as soon as you get that top of funnel stuff exactly right, your conversion rate starts to creep up, and your cost per acquisition drops like a stone. So I would say that the stuff that we do within social media and driving that right audience to our website is probably the most important part, because that sets the tone for everything that's going to come from there on in.
That makes sense. And what would you say would be the typical, because actually that's actually very true, because we had that on the show a lot, where marketers, they were driving traffic, but then there was kind of that underlying notion of that, a large chunk of it is actually not relevant at all. Is there something that you think people can do in order to address that? If is there what would marketers try, in your opinion, on tackling that issue? Because you got the traffic on the page, but what do you do next, basically? If it's not
sure. Yeah. I mean, this is a more fundamental thing than just marketing. It's about who it is you're driving your business towards, who's going to buy your product. I think actually, in my experience, more traditional ways are, non-digital ways are often good for that, as in physically speaking to people actually. So hence why we go through with a product like ours via partnerships with these incubators, because we actually get to speak to real business owners, actually get to hear what their actual pain points are, and then we can tailor our messaging, our positioning around what it is that they're after, and we can iterate our product development in the right direction to ensure that it's meeting their needs. But yeah, I mean, if that's misaligned, then it's actually not that difficult to get people to a website and get them to sign up to something. But once they've signed up for something and then they actually see what it actually is, that's when it just falls off. And as a business, for every sign up you get, you've got to pay for them. It's tiny amount, don't get me wrong, but the sum of the parts, that your costs just hosting of your web app, in our case, will start to creep up, and all the other sort of cost metrics to running your business, like customer support, all of these things start to creep up when none of these people are actually going to convert. So you've got to make sure you get the right people, and as I said, I think just physically speaking to them, you can't beat it.
Yeah, makes a whole lot of sense. Now, two last questions to wrap it up for today, to learn more about your perspective as a marketer, right? One question I have is, if there would be no boundaries in technology, what's the one thing that you would fix for your role as a marketer?
Goodness me, that's a big question. So what's the one thing I would fix, as in what's the one tool that I would like to have?
I have a magic wand. If
I had a magic wand, I think that again, going back to the top of funnel stuff and identifying that that sort of that core audience. I don't. There's. I guess this isn't really a magic one, but there's a lot of information out there, but there's not. There's a lot of people say you read these blogs, you hear interviews like this, and they're saying just go out there and speak to your customers. It's like, how the hell do I find my customers? It's not straightforward. Yeah. But if there were tools out there that almost had a predefined segmented audiences that were willing and able to to test things and learn from at scale, that would be amazing. I mean, I know it's I'm thinking back from way back when I was sort of first starting off in marketing. Focus groups and rooms, you'd get a recruiter that goes and finds individuals to sit around a room. It was never very good because lots of issues. But anyway, having a big chunk of people that you could just go straight to without having to faff around too much, and you could just speak to and glean information on, that'd be amazing.
Very interesting. Actually, you were speaking on user groups there. We had some user experience researchers on the show. They clearly showed the flaws of user groups where people kind of affect each other so much in the messaging that they put out, and then you got very diluted data in the very end.
Yeah, they do. Maybe I'm being a bit cynical, but with market researchers, it was often their mates that came to the focus groups for £20 and a chocolate muffin or something.
Very good. Very last question, right? If today would be your first day working as a marketer, right? You're heading out of formal education into the world of marketing. What's the one advice you give yourself for your journey?
I think this is probably just a running theme, but be all over your numbers, be all over your customers, really understand them, really understand the detail of how your business works, your marketing proposition works, because it's very easy to be a bit blasé about certain aspects because you think, oh, that's a given. But that's when things start to fall apart. So I know BoomBoard and what we do is about being all over your numbers. It is the 101. It's the startup handbook. It's literally the very first title of the very first page. Know your numbers, and I think that goes to any aspect of running a business. Be all over the detail, and then you'll never miss anything.
Very good. Yeah, we appreciate you joining us for this show today. I'm going to give you the very last word. If people would be forgetting all that we discussed about BoomBoard, what's the one simple thing people should remember?
That businesses are alive and kicking, and they are organic beasts in themselves. And BoomBoard helps you keep your finger on the pulse, so you never miss a beat of it. But if I may, if there was a second thing, knowing your numbers is a great way to get rid of stress levels. If you know your detail, you're less stressed about what's to come. So being all over the key metrics of your business, and that's what BoomBoard does.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathmark Presents.
My pleasure.